two things happened at almost exactly the same time. Gold had its worst crash in 45 years. 21% wiped out, silver lost 41%. You already know about that crash. But while every headline on the planet was screaming about the crash, something else happened that almost nobody noticed. The United States Department of Justice quietly uploaded 3 million pages of Jeffrey Epstein's files to the internet. Buried inside those files in a dataset labeled number 9 on a page most people will never find was one email sent to Jeffrey Epstein on June 18, 2011. Subject line, the European Union Times. And the content of that email is about Fort Knox, about America's gold, about whether it is still there. I need you to understand why this matters. Because the email itself is not the story. The email is the door. What is behind that door? The exposed audit trail, the broken promises, the silence from the most powerful people on earth. That is the story. And by the end of this video, you are going to see exactly how that story leads to a $10,000 gold price. But I have to warn you, once you see what I am about to show you, you cannot unsee it, and you will never look at your gold the same way again. Welcome to the hidden economy. If this is your first time here, this is where I break down what mainstream financial media will not show you. Subscribe. It is free, and it helps this channel keep doing real research like this. If you watched my last video on China's 7-piece strategy to exit the dollar, everything I'm about to show you connects directly to that. The puzzle pieces are fitting together faster than I expected. Let us start with the email. It comes from a PDF document hosted on the U.S. Department of Justice website. You can find it yourself on the Justice Department's Epstein page where they've published multiple document sets. This is not a rumor. This is not a screenshot someone made up on social media. This is a verified government document sitting on a.gov website right now. Anyone can go look at it. Here's what it says. The email was sent on June 18, 2011 at 2:51 p.m. The sender's name is blacked out, redacted. We do not know who sent it. The recipient is Jeffrey Epstein at an email address, jvocationmail.com. The subject line says the European Union Times. At the bottom, it says, sent from my iPad. The email forwards an article, and the headline of that article is this. Russia says IMF chief jailed for discovering all U.S. gold is gone. Now stop. I know what you're thinking. But before you react to that headline, I need you to hear something critical, because this is where almost everyone covering this story is getting it dangerously wrong, and I refuse to be one of them. The article in that email was not written by a credible journalist. It was written by someone who goes by the name Sorkal. This person publishes on a website called whatdoesitme.com. Fact-checkers have rated this source as far-right conspiracy pseudoscience with low credibility. Business Insider called the claims in this article complete nonsense. CNBC called it a single unverified report. I'm telling you this up front. I'm not going to sit here and present a conspiracy article as confirmed fact. That is not what this channel does. Here is what the article claims. It says that Russia's security service prepared a secret report saying that Dominique Strauss-Kahn, who was the head of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, was arrested for sex crimes because he discovered that all the gold at Fort Knox was missing. It claims the CIA secretly gave him evidence. He claims China received thousands of tungsten-filled fake gold bars from Fort Knox back in 2009. Tungsten is a metal that weighs almost exactly the same as gold. If you coat a tungsten bar in a thin layer of real gold, it looks identical, feels identical, and weighs identical. The only way to tell the difference is to drill into it or scan it. It is the perfect material to fake a gold bar. None of that has been independently verified. No Russian report has surfaced. No CIA leak has been confirmed. No government has acknowledged receiving fake gold. Those are the facts. So why am I making a video about this? Because underneath the conspiracy, there are real events that actually happened, verified, documented on the public record. And those real events are terrifying enough without any embellishment. The conspiracy article got the explanation wrong, but the questions it accidentally stumbled onto. Those questions are very real, and nobody in power wants to answer them. In fact, the people who promised to answer them are now pretending they never asked. Let me separate the fact from the fiction for you piece by piece, and I want you to watch how the verified facts alone, without any conspiracy, tell a story that is worse than the article. The article mentions a man named Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Most people have never heard that name. But what happened to this man is one of the strangest things I have ever researched. He was the managing director of the International Monetary Fund. Think of the IMF as the organization that oversees the entire global financial system. The man who runs it knows where every major country's money is. He knows where the gold is. He knows where the debt is. He sees everything. On May 14, 2011, this man was arrested at JFK Airport in New York, pulled off a plane, accused of sexually assaulting a hotel maid at the Sofitel Hotel, front page news in every country on earth. His career was destroyed overnight. His campaign for the French presidency was over before it started. Now, here is what most people do not know, and this is where it starts to get uncomfortable. The criminal charges against Strauss-Kahn were dropped completely. In August 2011, the accuser's credibility collapsed during the investigation. Strauss-Kahn settled a civil suit the next year. In 2015, a French court acquitted him of separate charges. So, the most powerful financial official on the planet was publicly destroyed, removed from his position, and then the case fell apart. Just like that, Vladimir Putin publicly questioned whether the arrest was a setup. 57% of French citizens suspected a conspiracy immediately after the arrest. A journalist named Edward J. Epstein, no relation to Jeffrey Epstein, investigated the case in detail and wrote that the circumstances suggested a possible political setup. And here is a detail that almost nobody talks about. 3 days after Strauss-Kahn was arrested, another powerful man was charged with the exact same crime. An Egyptian banker named Mahmoud Abdul Salam Omar, 74 years old, was accused of sexually assaulting a maid at a different New York hotel. Same city, same type of crime, same week. Two powerful men connected to international finance, both accused by hotel workers within days of each other. Both cases eventually fell apart. Coincidence? Maybe. But when the head of the IMF and a senior international banker both get taken down in the same week, in the same city with the same type of accusation, and both cases collapse, you do not need a conspiracy theory to find that unusual. Did Strauss-Kahn discover something about Fort Knox? There is no confirmed evidence of that. But was one of the most powerful financial officials on Earth removed from power under circumstances that were later legally discredited? That is a documented fact, and that fact alone should make you pay very close attention to what I'm about to show you next. Fort Knox. Here is what we know for certain. The United States Bullion Depository at Fort Knox, Kentucky, was built in 1937. The vault door weighs over 20 tons. It is blast-proof. No single person alive has the full combination to open it. Multiple people must enter separate parts of the code at the same time. Inside that vault sit 147.3 million troy ounces of gold, 4,580 metric tons stacked inside 13 sealed compartments. At today's prices, that gold is worth over $800 billion. It is the largest single stash of gold anywhere on Earth. At least it is supposed to be. Fort Knox does not offer tours. Its website says visitors are not allowed. Senator Mike Lee has said he's been repeatedly denied entry despite having access to military bases across the country. A United States senator cannot get inside. Now here's the number I need you to sit with. The last full comprehensive audit of that gold happened in 1953, 73 years ago. Let that sink in for a second. Your government asks you to file your taxes every single year. They audit businesses, they audit individuals, they audit charities, they audit everything. But the largest gold reserve in human history has not had a full independent public audit in 73 years. In 1974, a small group of congressmen and journalists were allowed to tour a portion of the vault. They saw gold bars, but they did not conduct a full count. They did not test any bars. They looked at some gold and left. That was 52 years ago. In 2017, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin visited Fort Knox, the first Treasury Secretary to step foot inside since 1948. He came out, pulled out his phone, and tweeted, "Glad gold is safe!" That was it. That was the verification, a tweet. And I have to be honest, when I read that for the first time during my research, I laughed. $800 billion in gold, and the proof that it exists is a tweet with an exclamation mark. Now, the government says they do annual audits, but here is what those audits actually are. The Office of Inspector General checks some paperwork. They look at seals on vault doors. They do not drill any gold bars to check if they are solid gold or tungsten filled. They do not weigh every bar. They do not bring in independent auditors, and the results are not made public. You are simply told the gold is there. Trust us. Now, here is where this story goes from interesting to unbelievable. And everything I am about to tell you is on the public record on camera in official statements from the President of the United States and the richest man on Earth. In February 2025, Elon Musk posted on X, who is confirming that gold was not stolen from Fort Knox. Maybe it is there, maybe it is not. He said he wanted to live stream an inspection of Fort Knox. The richest man on the planet wanted to put cameras inside that vault and show the whole world what is in there. Then, Donald Trump aboard Air Force One on February 20th told reporters on camera, "We're going to go into Fort Knox, the fabled Fort Knox, to make sure the gold is there." The President of the United States said that on the record on Air Force One, Senator Rand Paul immediately jumped in. He formally requested that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent arranged an inspection visit. He gave him a deadline, 30 days. Now, I want you to remember those three names: Musk, Trump, Paul, the richest man on earth, the President of the United States, a sitting United States Senator. All three publicly committed to opening Fort Knox and showing America what is inside. And then silence. Total silence. Musk's last public mention of Fort Knox was April 6, 2025, a Fox Business interview where he talked about live streaming the inspection. After that, he never brought it up again, not once. Trump never mentioned it again. The Washington Times reported in May that Trump had developed a new perspective, whatever that means. I have thought about this a lot. This is a man who does not go quiet on things. He talks about everything. He doubles down on everything. The one thing he went completely silent on is Fort Knox. That pattern alone, in my opinion, is more significant than any email. Rand Paul's 30-day deadline came and went. 60 days passed, 90 days, 100 days. The Treasury never responded, not a single word. A sitting United States Senator asked the Treasury Secretary to arrange a visit to verify America's gold reserves, and the Treasury simply ignored him for over 100 days. A retired Treasury Inspector General named Eric Thorson, one of the few people alive who has personally been inside the vault, told reporters something remarkable. If Trump really believed that the gold was gone, he would be down there in a second. He knows damn well it is there. So he would look stupid coming out and saying, "Yeah, I guess I was wrong. It is all there." So the best way to do this is to just drop it. That is one explanation. The gold is there. Everybody knows it, and proving it would just be embarrassing. But there is another explanation, and it is the one that keeps gold investors up at night. What if they went silent, not because they know the gold is there, but because they found out some of it is not? What if someone walked into that conversation and said, "Mr. President, you do not want to open that door. I have no proof that happened." Nobody does. But that possibility is exactly why Congressman Thomas Massie introduced a bill in June 2025 called the Gold Reserve Transparency Act. It calls for the first comprehensive independent audit of Fort Knox since the 1950s. Independent auditors, full physical count, bars drilled and tested, results made public. As of today, that bill has not been voted on. It is sitting in Congress collecting dust. And if you think this kind of question only exists in conspiracy theories, It does not. It already happened to Germany. In 2013, Germany asked the Federal Reserve Bank of New York to send back 300 tons of gold. German gold, stored in an American vault sitting there with Germany's name on it. The response was that it would take 7 years. 300 tons of gold supposedly already separated and accounted for. And the answer was, come back in 2020. In the first year, barely any of it came back from New York, and when the gold did eventually arrive, the bars had been melted down and recast into new bars. They were not the original bars Germany deposited. Germany's central bank, the Bundesbank, said it was to meet current standards. Critics said it raised an obvious question. If the original bars were sitting right there, why would you melt them down and make new ones? Germany got their gold back by 2017, but the fact that it took 4 years to return something that should have been loaded onto a plane in a week has never been satisfactorily explained. And I want to tell you what I think about this. The Germany story is not a conspiracy theory, it is a documented event between two allied nations. And if the Federal Reserve could not immediately return gold that belonged to Germany, that raises a very simple question. Was it actually sitting there waiting to be returned, or did someone have to go find it first? Now, I want you to hold all of this in your mind at the same time. The email exists. The article it references is from a conspiracy source, and I have told you that clearly, but 73 years without a full audit is real. 3 of the most powerful people on Earth going silent is real. A senator ignored for 100 days is real. Germany waiting 4 years for their own gold is real. And a bill to force an audit collecting dust in Congress is real. And I have not even gotten to the scariest part yet. There is a number, a single number, that shows you why the US government might actually need gold to hit $10,000. And there is a pattern in gold's history that will make the crash on January 30th look very different from what you think it was. Both are coming. Stay with me. So where does gold go from here? Let me show you why everything I just laid out points to $10,000. The first thing you need to understand is what this email is doing to the demand side of gold. Right now, millions of people who never thought about Fort Knox in their lives are now searching for it. They're finding the 73-year gap. They're finding the silence. They're finding Germany. And every single one of them is a potential new gold buyer. Not because they are conspiracy theorists, but because once you see that nobody can prove the gold is there, you start wanting to hold your own. That is not paranoia. That is common sense, and that wave of new awareness is just getting started. Now let me show you the number that, in my opinion, is the most dangerous piece of this entire puzzle. Forget the conspiracy, forget the email. This one number alone can take gold to $10,000. And the scary part is, the government might actually want it to. The United States government officially values its gold at $422 per ounce. That price was set in 1973, 53 years ago. Gold today trades above $5,000. The official book value of all the gold at Fort Knox is $6.2 billion. The actual market value is over $800 billion. Think about how insane that is. The government is carrying $800 billion worth of gold on its books at $6.2 billion. That is like saying your house is worth $500,000, but writing it down as $40,000 on your tax return. If the government revalued that gold to market price, it would add roughly $794 billion to the Treasury's balance sheet overnight without raising a single tax, without cutting a single program. Some analysts believe this revaluation is inevitable because the U.S. national debt just crossed $38 trillion and they desperately need ways to make the numbers work. And here is the part that should make you sit up. If the government needs gold to be worth more to fix their balance sheet, they have zero incentive to keep the price down. At $10,000 per ounce, the U.S. gold reserve would be worth over $1.6 trillion. That is not conspiracy. That is a calculator. And then there is the force that I personally think matters more than anything else in the story. China. Because while Americans are debating whether Fort Knox is full, China has already made its decision. They're acting like the answer is no. China has been dumping U.S. Treasury bonds for over a decade. $634 billion pulled out. At the same time, they bought gold for 14 straight months. Not one month skipped. They built their own payment system called CIPS. Now live in 124 countries with nearly 5,000 banks connected. They restricted silver exports on January 1st, controlling 60 to 70% of global supply. Now add the Fort Knox question to that picture. If there is even a 1% chance that some of America's gold is compromised, what does that do to every country holding US dollars? It makes them do exactly what China is already doing. Move out of paper, move into physical. Trust nothing you cannot hold in your own vault. China's gold reserves are only 8.5% of their total reserves. America's are 66%. If China wants to reach even half of America's level, they need thousands of more tons at any price. And they are buying every single month without stopping. And here is a detail that connects directly to the Epstein email. The conspiracy article alleged China received fake gold bars from Fort Knox in 2009. That specific claim is unverified, but what is verified is that starting in 2023, China began the most aggressive physical gold buying program in its history. If you got burned by fake gold, would you not spend the next decade buying verified physical gold as fast as possible? I'm not saying that is what happened. I am saying the behavior fits. And in my opinion, what China is doing with gold right now is the single biggest signal in the entire precious metals market. Bigger than the email, bigger than the silence. Countries do not lie. Their money moves tell you the truth. And by the way, China is not the only one who sees where this is going, because what the biggest banks on Wall Street did in response to the crash is the part that personally convinced me gold is going much higher. Let me show you. After the worst single-day gold crash in 45 years, you would expect at least one major bank to say gold is done, that it peaked, that the bubble finally popped. Not a single one did. Not one. JP Morgan did not just maintain their target. They raised it to $6,300 after the crash, not before, after. Their analysts watched gold lose 21% in a single day, and their response was to tell their clients to buy more. Yardini. Research is calling for 10,000 by 2030. These are not Reddit posts. These are institutions that move billions of dollars. They have the best data, the biggest research teams, the most information on the planet. And every single one of them looked at the worst crash of our lifetimes and said, gold is going higher. Ask yourself what they know that you do not. Now, put all of this together. Millions of new people discovering the Fort Knox question. A revaluation that the government might actually need. China buying thousands of tons with no intention of stopping. And every major bank on earth saying the price is going up. These are not separate stories. They are one story. And the Epstein email did not create any of them. They were all in motion before anyone found that email. The email just put a spotlight on the one question that ties everything together. If the gold is there, prove it. Open the vault, show the world. End every conspiracy in one afternoon, one live stream, one camera. Walk in, count the bars, drill a few, publish the results. They will not do it, and every single day they refuse. Gold goes higher. Now, I owe you honesty because I think you deserve it. The Epstein email does not prove Fort Knox is empty. The article it references is from a discredited source. I have told you that clearly. I'm not sitting here telling you America's gold is gone. I have no evidence of that, and neither does anyone who is being honest with you. What I am telling you is that the questions are real and the silence is real, and the gold market's response to all of it is very real. The email is not the evidence. The email is the match. The fuel was already there, decades of it stacked up in unpassed audit bills and ignored Senate requests and broken presidential promises and a financial system that books its gold at $42 in a $5,000 world. I believe gold is going significantly higher from here, not because of one email in Jeffrey Epstein's inbox, but because of everything that email accidentally exposed. The 73-year gap, the 3 men who promised to open the vault and went silent. The country that waited 4 years to get its own gold back. The math that demands revaluation. The central banks that will not stop buying. And the one question that the most powerful government on earth refuses to answer. Here's the thing that stays with me after weeks of research on this. It would be so easy to kill this story. One audit, one day, bring in cameras, bring in independent auditors, count the bars, drill 10 of them, show the test results, publish a full report. It would cost less than what the government spends in 30 seconds, and it would end every conspiracy theory about Fort Knox permanently. I keep coming back to that. If the answer is good, why would you not want to give it? The fact that they refused, the fact that 3 of the most powerful people on earth promised to do it and then went silent, that tells you something. I do not know exactly what it tells you, but it tells you something. If the gold is there, open the door. They will not. And that more than any email is why gold is going to $10,000. If you want to understand exactly how China's full 7-piece strategy to exit the dollar connects to everything I showed you today, that video is linked right here. The treasury dump, the gold buying, the S&P system, the silver controls. It is the other half of this story. In my next video, I'm going to show you something that almost nobody is talking about. Gold has done that only 2 other times in its entire history. And both times, what happened next was the biggest bull run of that generation. When you see the pattern, you will understand why I believe this crash was not the end. It was the beginning. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Fort Knox should be audited? Yes or no? I want to see where this audience stands. I read every single comment. And share this video with one person who needs to see this. Most people will never find these documents on their own. That is why this channel exists.